my job is to make them believe they can do anything they want. And once I get them to believe that, boom, that's literally the biggest limitation for anybody learning anything. Ready? Hey, Elizabeth.
Hey, son.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So before we start, while we're on video,
yeah.
I want to get your commitment on something.
Oh,
Will you
whoa.
commit to doing 50 episodes no matter what?
Wow. I mean, you're just going to drop that on me like while we're recording?
Yeah. Because it doesn't matter what, 50 episodes later, you're like, oh, fuck this. Whatever. Fine.
All right. So we're committed to 50.
And it's not for me. This is for you. Because you know how when we brought the podcast back when we were having the conversation?
Yeah.
I got a sense from you, the same kind of sense that I get from almost everyone I speak to, which is that feeling of like, there's got to be more to life than this. I'm missing something in my life, right? There's something that's missing in my life. And I think the way to find that is not to go find it, but to consistently do something for a certain period of time. And then that comes. And I just want to see if this will work for you. Right?
Well, thank you for thinking of me.
Of course.
Man, it's so funny how you and I are sometimes on the same wavelength, and it can be, gosh, we didn't talk for like almost a year.
Almost a year, yeah.
We just like, you have those people in your life that are, you just connect with, and I consider you one of those people. But it is so weird to me how this is exactly the topic, very similar to the topic that I wanted to talk to you about today.
Oh, really?
About like, yes, literally, like I did a lot of reflection yesterday and today as we prepared, and I was like, man, I really want to talk about this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I want a job, but I don't want a job. I want to do something, but I don't actually want to do something. And I don't want to do something I don't really like. All that in a very roundabout way to say, I think commitment is something that, not that I struggle with, because, I mean, if I really like something, believe in it, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. But I didn't even want to get married, right? Like, I'm so fearful of, like, these pieces of paper. Yeah. Like, my plan was to not get married. Michael and I dated for a long time, and I was like, dude, I don't want to get married. We don't need that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then I realized, like, no, this is my person. I do want to get married, and I do want to have children with him. So it's very similar to like what you said. You just commit to something and you see where it goes.
Yeah. And it's almost like a decision that you have to make, I think.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to commit to, I'm going to get married to you and have kids with you, but I am going to commit that we're going to be in a very serious relationship. Mm-hmm. We're going to take that next step. Yeah, we're going to live together. We're going to take this next step of commitment. And then the plan just kind of unfolds. And so I can see parallels in how things in my life where, okay, I'm just going to take this next step and see what happens. Yeah. So, again, another roundabout way to get to, hey, man, let's do that. Let's figure that out. That's scary to me, though.
And let's think of it as an experiment. Like, not even like, like, let's just do it. Do 50 let's waste 50 hours of our life in the next year and see what happens.
I mean, I feel like we should say 52, right? Like, we should do 52. So we have like 52. Yeah. We say we're going to do this for a year. Yeah. And
let's see what happens. And I think, like, and even if it isn't from like you get fulfillment from the podcast or whatever, I think you'll learn something enough
100%
to know what the next step will be after that.
Yeah, because the next step, I mean, man, like, F this. Mm-hmm. I'm out.
Yeah. At least you don't want to do it.
Right. Yeah, like, I mean, it's kind of like I mean, my personality is like, okay, son, what are we going to talk about today? Like, how are we going to plan for this? We need to plan for all these things. And just like, there is discomfort for me in that I don't really know what the objective is. It's so much easier for me to be like, okay, there's a clear objective and I'm trying to achieve it. It is incredibly uncomfortable to be in a spot where it's like, I don't really know what the objective is, but I love that we've put one, right? The objective right now is that we're just going to do 52 podcasts.
I see what you mean. So you need some sort of objective. It doesn't even matter what the objective is.
Yeah,
You just need an
like,
objective. Yeah.
I need an
I love
objective.
that.
Like, what is the goal? Okay. If it's just loose ended, it's too easy to walk away. I actually had a girlfriend that she is a professional organizer. The COVID happened, so she wasn't able to do that in people's homes, right? And she has a hard time with commitment too, or like struggles in figuring things out. And so what she did was she made a commitment to herself that she was going to do 52, I think it was like 52 blog posts. And she was just going to see what happened. She was like, I'm going to, every week, no matter what, I'm putting out a blog. And she committed to it. She took a couple of like breaks, like during holidays, but she's committed to it. And what's happened is this beautiful like experience for her where she's found something that she doesn't have to make money at, that she can just like enjoy, and she gets so much fulfillment out of it. And there was been struggle, I'm sure, in it, but she said that like just setting that commitment, no matter what, I'm going to do it for 52 weeks, and now she's well beyond 52 weeks.
What's that
she's in it a
movie
year and a half.
about that the lady with the cookbook and this woman who blogged about her for like a year or something like that, and she became famous, and then now there's like a movie.
I don't know.
Fuck.
I don't know.
It was such a great movie because it was exactly like that. This girl just decided to blog about.
Yeah.
All she did was she just followed that woman's recipe. Every day she cooked something from the recipe, and then she blogged about it for a year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, something like that. I think.
Something.
You know,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, so, like this keeps both of us committed.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
without being like, I don't really want to do that anymore.
And there's something to that, because remember, did we talk about that Pastor Moon? You know Pastor Moon.
No.
So Pastor Moon is
Who is
like
Pastor Moon?
this Korean pastor, like in the 70s. What he does is he just marries people, and he had this like event in Madison Square Garden where he had
Wait. He just like he doesn't marry them. He like facilitates. Like,
he facilitates.
Okay.
Like,
I heard that as
yeah.
Yeah, he's like I can't think of the name, but I thought you were saying he just went out and married.
No.
Like
no.
married. Okay, I'm good. Go ahead.
Yeah. So in like the 70s, he had like 3,000 people, like brides and grooms. They were all dressed in tuxedos and wedding gowns. They just showed up, and he'd be like, you and you, boom, you, and then he matches them up, and then these 3,000 people got married that day. Now, and he does that like all over the world. Yeah,
they
strangers.
didn't know who they.
Pastor Moon just assigns them, and these marriages that Pastor Moon does have 90 something % success ratio. After 30 years, like only 5% of them get divorced or something like that. As opposed to the average divorce rate in America is over 50%. Okay.
Yeah.
So what that tells you is, I mean, and this is like something I feel in my bones, because what that's telling me is that it's the sheer amount of options that's driving us crazy. Like the fact that there are options, because those people, what they're doing is, and the reason why arranged marriage works also is because once you throw away the idea of like, okay, there is idea of divorce is out the door, then no matter what, you try to make it work.
Yeah.
But as soon as you know that is out, that option is available, you're not even gonna bother. And relationships are so fucking hard. Like, no matter what, there is no such thing as a soulmate where it's gonna be perfect. Like, you have to make it work, and you're not even gonna try if that option is too readily available, right? And that's like, and that's, I think, the reason why psychological disease are a modern phenomenon. They happen in like the last
Mm-hmm.
2 centuries. And that's because we have too many options in our career. Like I think the reason why people these days are going crazy, like going like I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, is because there's too many options. Where 100 years ago, if you were a cobbler, your dad was a cobbler, your grandfather was a cobbler, your great grandfather, and you know your kid's gonna be a cobbler, you know, like,
Right.
and they were
I'm a
fucking
cobbler,
happy as
dude.
hell.
Right. Right. No, I mean, I think there's definitely something to that. Because that for some reason I'm thinking about the relationship with Michael. Like that's partially why that was partially the driver early on in our relationship. There's absolutely no way I'm that way now, but like, oh well, there are other options. There's the option of me being alone, which is very comfortable. I know that option really well. The option of being with there could be something better. I totally see how that drives us bonkers, or can.
Yeah. I think that's why like Tinder is so dangerous, in my opinion, for society, just because
Yeah.
I feel like it can cause, like in the next decade or two, it can cause like, like just relationships to be over because people just can't commit, right? How can you commit when there's tens of
Yeah.
thousands of options right in your pocket?
Right there. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, there's not a whole lot of work that you have to do.
Just gonna move your thumb.
That's terrifying. I'm glad I was happily in a relationship before that became an option.
Seriously, I wonder what kind of like long-term changes are gonna happen as a result of the technologies that we've experienced in the last decade, you know,
Yeah.
because
I mean,
dating has
social media
completely
in general.
changed, like night and day.
It's, all socialization, I feel like,
Yeah,
has
yeah,
changed.
friendship, relationships, everything.
Everything. Like, people that I have no business knowing what's going on in their life, I know way too many details. Like, and I mean, you know what? Like, in complete strangers, I feel like I have a relationship with them.
But on the flip side, I feel like we don't have as good of a relationship with the close ones. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. Exactly.
Because there's something to that, right? There's something to like waiting for somebody without the ability to be able to call them on their cell phone. Like there's something to like setting a meeting place and say, "Hey, let's meet here at this time."
Yeah.
And both of us having to be committed to that, right? Like now there's
Yeah.
the option of not just texting like, "Oh, no, I can't make it." It's too readily available.
Right. Right. Because you'd be like, oh, they probably already left. I can't just stand them up. I have no way to get in touch with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it makes the modern technology makes you a less thoughtful. Like I talked about this thing where um, when you, I talked about it with you when we were talking about how Apple products are like so great and how oh no, we talked about how Steve Jobs when he says everyone should take a year off and learn how to code or go to law school because it teaches you how to think. And I feel like we're losing that with modern technology right now. You know what I mean? Like,
Like learning how to think
yeah, learning how to
or what?
think. Like, for example, like looking at a map and like really figuring it out and learning how to think about it, right? Or like the commitment thing I said, like saying we're gonna meet here and making sure like being accountable to make sure you're there. Or
Right.
what's like another thing, like the map thing. Oh, here's another thing.
Spelling.
Yeah, spelling, like spelling mistakes. Like, I remember when I was in high school, I would stay up, like, there was like this radio program on the radio, on the FM at 10 o'clock at
Yeah.
night
Yeah. Yeah.
that plays my favorite songs. So I would always, at 10 o'clock at night, I would put a blank cassette tape in there and hit the record and play button at
Yeah.
the same time, right when they're playing the song, right? Because, because
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to buy the CD or whatever. And then I had like series of songs like that, right? And then I would like
Mm-hmm.
listen to it over and over to learn how to play guitar, like listen to it. Like now I just go on Google and then there's like a tab like, oh, put your
Yeah.
finger here, like, and I think it's just like takes away the ability to think.
Oh yeah, man. I so many things that don't keep I don't retain them anymore because I see no value in retaining
Yeah.
them because I know I can always just like look it up.
I mean, I think
And
that's good that we have all those tools available, but I think
yeah,
we need some training in the beginning first to
of
without
how
those
to
tools.
think.
Yeah.
Right, because you and I had the opportunity to do that. I mean, we're in this
Yeah,
unique
yeah, yeah.
generation that has been able to
We're so
experience.
lucky.
We're so lucky. But we've been able to experience both. Look at us. But we truly we've been able to experience like, okay, we have to think on our own, we have to look things up on our own. I mean, I remember being taught how to use an encyclopedia, like how outdated
Like
is
the
that? I remember we
Britannica.
bought like one of
Yeah.
our first computers.
Computer.
It had Encarta. Was that the name of the
Oh yeah,
encyclopedia?
I
I don't
remember
know. We had
that.
like
Yeah, yeah,
six
yeah.
CDs with it.
Like the DVD-ROMs. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you had to buy a new one every year because the information was outdated. But I but I think about my kids, like get how will they learn the ability to think without all of these tools? Because even in like the school systems and academically, they're being taught on how
They're
to use
using
the
it. Yeah.
tools, not necessarily how to
No,
think without the tools.
I think
So
that stuff you have to be taught at home. I don't think you can teach that I don't think school teaches that right now, at least. School doesn't
yeah,
teach you how to critically think. And I think that's the reason why out in the world when I talk to most people actually don't know how to most people are just followers. They're not like critical thinkers and leaders of
yeah,
ideas, right? And that's the reason why that's happening is because school doesn't teach you how to critical like the school system was designed to make pawns, right? Like
yeah, to
that they
make you
can,
follow.
yeah.
Yeah,
So and yeah, so that you have to teach at home because there are people out there that kind of knows how to critically think, but I think school didn't teach them that. I think they were taught that at home, in my opinion.
yeah. No, I think you're right. That's a big reason why we chose
The Montessori schools.
Montessori. Yeah, is because they do teach you to like even
Yeah,
my 3-year-old, like they're teaching her to think critically. Like there's not a ton of guidance. It's very child led.
it's like
But
the most important skill, I think.
yeah, yeah,
For
absolutely.
example, I think the reason why I know so like that's why I'm like I know we were joking, but we really are the luckiest generation because we literally lived half of our life without this technology, and the other
Yeah,
half of our life with, right? So
yeah,
what ends up happening is right now I think everybody takes Google for granted. Almost everybody who were born into the Google culture,
yeah.
but
I take it for granted.
yeah, even people
I
forgot about it,
now.
right? But I specifically remember the first time I saw Google, the first time I used Google, where I enter a question into Google,
Yeah.
and a result that I was specifically looking for came up, right? And it was such an amazing feeling because before that I
Yeah.
used Lycos, Expedia, uh,
Alta
InfoSeek,
Vista.
AltaVista, Yahoo. None of these search engines worked, right?
No, ask Jeeves.
Yeah, Ask
I mean,
Jeeves,
that
right?
was
None of these worked. And Google came around and you can literally ask a question and it'll give you the
and they
exact.
know what question you're
Yeah,
asking. So,
yeah,
like they've already predicted what question you're asking.
yeah. I mean, back then it didn't, but
Yeah.
still, just the search results were so amazing. And I literally
Yeah.
learned how to code, how to design, how to do marketing, how to write copy, how to edit video. Everything I've learned in my life, I learned that way, right? And it started on that day in 1997, me sitting in this like crummy office of this place that I was interning in, and somebody said, "Hey, did you see this? Google? This is like the year that Google came out." And I was
Yeah.
like, that moment, literally, I remember it like yesterday. That moment changed my life
That's
because
amazing.
now I'm like, holy shit. Like any fucking information, anything I want to know. If I want to make $1 million, if I want to get the hottest girl in the world, any information I want to know, I can just type it in here. I can learn it. That's
Yeah.
To me, it was mind blowing. But now I talk to kids these days, they so take it for granted, and it's like, and that's the generation difference. I'm
Yeah.
so lucky I was born without that, so I know the value of it.
Yeah. I, man, I agree because I have that same kind of feeling with Google. And like, well, I like learning in general. And so I agree with you. Like, it is such a powerful tool that I can literally learn whatever I want. Do I have any kind of question? I have a resource at my fingertips. I think you're right in that our generation really values that. I'm just thinking of some of the folks that I interact with that are a little bit younger that it's almost like they don't even think to use it.
No, no, no. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I have this question. Okay, then Google it. Like, have you heard of this thing? Have you heard of this thing called Google? Like, don't ask me the question. Why did you? I don't know the answer. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to Google that shit. Okay. So why don't you Google that shit? It kind of pisses me off. Like, are you taking this for granted? Like,
You're gonna
literally, I don't know why you're asking me any questions because I'm going to go directly to Google. But anyway,
go to this
I
website
agree.
called
Oh,
LMG.
I let me Google that for you. Yes, yes, I have sent that to people.
Oh, how amazing is that? Like that says
I,
exactly what I want to say without any words.
son, I can't tell you how many times I have sent that to people, and when they ask me stupid ass questions that I obviously am not gonna know, I am like, here you go.
The other day, I was watching this video from Gary Vee where he was saying somebody was asking him from the audience, like, okay, so if I want to get what was the question? Oh, if I want to get started in NFT, what should I do? Right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a young, and then and then he's like just he said, go spend 10 hours or 50 hours like studying it, right? And he's like, okay, how do I do that? Like, what's the first step? And Gary is literally like, go to Google. What is NFT? Enter. Like the fact that he had to tell them his that first step is
Right,
what's ridiculous. Like this is how little
right,
work people are willing to, like, you want to fucking start a business and you don't know. Like you're definitely not going to succeed in the business because business is all about problem solving, like, right? Like you need to
right.
figure out answer to something that you're struggling with, and so if you can't do that, like you're not going to figure it out.
I know, and I don't want to seem elitist, but I do. I struggle with people that don't that's not their like a question pops in their mind and that their natural
Oh,
inclination
I see what you
isn't.
mean. Yeah.
I'm gonna Google it, right? Like I feel like I struggle. One of the areas I struggle in is I have a really difficult time. In complete seriousness, I have a really difficult time with people when people think differently than I do, and not that I'm not okay with people having different opinions. It's not that. It's like when it absolutely makes no fucking sense. Like what like this Google thing. Like you have a question in your head.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Why are
Yeah.
why are you not uh, this is a universal, I believe universally everyone would agree with me that it doesn't make sense why you're not googling it. I just really like I struggle so much, and Michael gives me a hard time all the time.
That
He's
is
like, "You
elitist,
have
though.
such." What'd you say?
That is elitist for you to think that because
Oh, yes, it's
there are a lot of
That's
people who
so egotistical.
there are a lot of people that, first of all, don't even have the intellectual capability to think of that. And then there are a lot of people, most people actually, were trained not to do that. So if you're
Yeah,
trained not to do that your whole life, like, yeah,
I know. I still struggle with it though.
uh,
Anytime anyone has like a different view or perspective, if it doesn't make logical sense, like for instance, it's seatbelts. Like I'm all good with wearing seatbelts. I think that because that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to save my life. I'm going to save my kids' life. I'm going to save all these people's lives. Like, yes, there's arguments that maybe they don't save lives out there that people say, but whatever. Universally, I believe that seatbelts are great. Yeah. But if someone says something, like if someone said to me, I don't know, I don't think Googling is like the first thing it's a bad example, but I don't think Googling is like the first thing I would do when I ask a question. I think I'd go to an expert first. That does not make sense to me.
Well, one of two things. Okay. One of two things. First, because I think there's two different reasons why people do that, right? One is some people are just intellectually lazy. And you know how, like, I think they say at Goldman Sachs.
These things you say.
What?
These things that you say just crack me up. Why? I think people are just intellectually lazy.
That's a thing.
I know,
I'm
you're
not
right.
the first one to hear that. I've heard that before. But anyway, you know, like when you go to Goldman Sachs, or I don't know, what is it? Maybe it was Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or somebody said that when they interview, they asked this question where like, how many gas stations are in America, right? And there are two types of people. There's people that are like, oh, I have no idea. And then there's a second type who's like, okay, there's about this many people living here. There's this many states, and they'll actually try to actually take a crack at it, right? So yeah, the first kind is the intellectually lazy ones, and those are the ones that they never hire, by the way, these banks. And then the second one is the actually try to put some thought into it, right? But most people are the first one actually. So that is different. The first one, I think, is. There's also another reason why people do that is because they think the learning gap, the learning curve is too high, way too much. The gap is too big for me to, okay. So for example, like, you know, I think even you, like when we were working together, were like that. When I try to like teach you something new, it's so impossible for me to get somebody to teach something new, completely new to someone, because they automatically put this big gap between them and that thing. And that's why like it's so hard for me to teach people how to code, edit videos, use Photoshop or design something, when all of these things actually to me are okay. So if I say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to be a great copywriter, people are going to be like, oh, I can do that. But if I say I'm going to teach you how to be a great video editor, be a great programmer, be a great designer, people are going to be like, they automatically put a big gap. Even though all those things, including copywriting, is the same level of difficulty.
Yeah.
And
okay, so you're saying I didn't want to learn it?
Like, I think in the beginning, I was trying to like get you to edit the videos, like yourself. And I think you thought that you couldn't do it.
Oh, yeah. But we eventually got there. Okay, okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay, yes. I had definitely had reservations. Like, oh man,
yeah, but
I'm not gonna be able to do it.
Obviously, you were not like that person that's not willing to Google. There's a big difference there, but it's the same. It's the same kind of feeling that person is going. I'm just trying to help you understand. Put yourself in that person's shoe, right?
No. That makes sense.
Yeah,
and it feels overwhelming.
Yeah, I get it. It's literally, I think the reason why at Night Owl we have so many rock stars is because everybody comes in with that fresh blank canvas, and I literally my job is to make them believe they can do anything they want. And once I get them to believe that, boom, like that's literally the biggest limiting belief, like limitation for anybody learning anything.
Yeah, it's almost like you just need to break down like what's the next step, like where there's value. So like that is a huge leap. You take someone who's never edited video in their life, doesn't even know what Photoshop looks like, doesn't even know what let's just take a step further, doesn't even know what Photoshop is or like whatever other programs. Yeah, like I was like, I have no idea how to use this.
When was the moment when you were like, oh, I can do this? Because there was that
Okay,
moment,
here's
right?
yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly, but I think it's like I had a willing teacher. I was set up for success, right? I had a willing teacher that was like, okay, just do these things. Go download this. At least give me like a little bit of direction. Go download this, get this, and you should be good.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right.
And
Yeah,
it's like I just need like the first next step. Like, what is that next step? And a little bit of guidance. Because even Googling it, right, you're going to get
yeah.
overwhelmed
It's too many answers.
with options.
Actually, it
Right.
was better
This is the best
10
program.
years ago. Because when I first
Yeah.
started on Google, there weren't that many options. But
Right.
now the fact that there's over information actually makes it harder to learn.
Yeah, it does. And so I think what worked well in that scenario was something that big, that massive, that completely out of my wheelhouse, no experience whatsoever. There were three things that set me up for success. One, I have a natural appetite for
Learning,
learning
yeah, yeah.
something new and different.
Because you
And
picked up really quickly.
yeah,
I
like
remember.
I like that.
I was
I
like,
was like,
oh.
okay. Two, I had a resource at my fingertips that's an expert in this field that's narrowing things down and giving me some guardrails and is also able to kind of teach me in real time like, hey, you need to start the music a little bit later. You need to do this.
Like the
You need to
guidance,
edit
yeah.
out this part. I had a little bit of guidance, like of do a little feedback, do
Yeah.
a little feedback. And the third, I think, is that I did have, now that the guardrails are in place, now that I have an expert, I can now utilize Google better because I have very specific
Yeah, yeah,
questions,
yeah. I see what you mean.
right? Like I know exactly. Oh,
That's true.
I'm
You're
in.
absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in this program because I remember 100 times I'd be like, now I know the specific program, the specific problem that I'm trying to solve. So now I can Google it and get
I
the
know it.
answer
Yeah.
and make
And
progress.
that's the part that takes the 50 hours. I just saved you 50 hours by going,
Yes, you.
by going,
Yes.
don't even worry about all of these. The only thing you need to not worry about, because here's a software that has 300 different functionalities. I only want you to worry about these five and
Yeah.
ignore these other 295, right?
Exactly.
Now that I told you that, now you can Google specific things and things like that. But it'll take you 50 hours just to get to that conclusion.
More than that.
Yeah.
More than that. And you gave me like examples and things to look at.
Yeah.
So I had all these great guardrails in place and guidance. And then the Googling was really supplemental to
Yeah.
those, what I believe are the two anchors in that learning.
And I think there was one more thing. You had a motive to learn,
Oh, yes, I did have a clear
which I think
motive
is
to do
really
it.
important.
It is. Yeah. Yes. Because, like, I'm not out here. I'm definitely not one of those people that's just like, you know what? I think I'm going to learn how to golf or like random shit. I'm not that person. I need motive, interest, and capacity to be able to learn. And I really like having a subject matter expert, is what I'm thinking. Like, so that's why yoga feels attractive to me because I'll have a subject matter expert that can guide me and help me learn something that I have a lot of interest in. When I became a personal trainer,
Wow, you're like the
same kind
opposite
of
of me in
thing.
that sense. Because I hate learning from experts.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to put my own spin on it, but I do like to lean on experts to help me. It
I
helps
mean,
supplement.
actually,
No,
I
I'm not going
do.
to do exactly what they say,
Yeah,
though.
yeah, 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 I know what you mean. Yeah, I do learn from the experts, but I ignore a lot of what they say.
You know what? Michael has a great saying in recovery. It's like when you go to people and they share their experience, or in meetings or sponsors, they say, take what you can and leave the rest. And I think I do a lot of that, of
Okay, okay,
taking
okay.
what, you know what I mean? And I'm sure you do too. Like,
Yeah,
take what you can and
I
leave the
take
rest of the
like
shit.
5%. I leave
Right.
95%. But
There you go.
usually what
And that's
happens
fine.
is I'm a slow learner. There's people that are like fast learner. I'm actually a slow learner in the sense that it takes me a really long time to learn something, but when I do, I really learn it. Do you understand what I
Yeah.
mean? So, for example,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like business, I made a lot of business mistakes. And these are all things that experts have told me not to do. But I almost literally need to do it for myself to figure out the nuances of why. Because when
Yeah.
somebody says, "Oh, you need to outsource everything," right? There's nuance to that. No, not always. Okay, like,
Right.
and I to learn that for myself by failing and spending the years of experience getting my hands dirty. Then I understand exactly why the concept behind. Then I can actually do it. But I can't just take somebody's word for it for some reason.
No, I can't either. I mean, I'm pretty cynical about that. Like, I want to fully understand why. Unless it's blatant, right? Like,
I mean, unless it
don't
makes
launder
logical
money.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
it has to me.
Like,
It
don't
has to
get
make logical sense. Yeah,
don't get involved with the cartel. Like, things like that.
yeah.
Ozark is on my mind. So, so like there are some things that are very black and white. Like, I gotcha. I'm down with that. But I understand, like, let me learn this on my own because there is nuance. Everything's unique. And I don't necessarily believe that it's 100% true what some people are saying. It's probably true for them in their experience, right? But it may not be true for me, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's probably it. Like, that's why like the blanket advice is such a dangerous thing. And I think what I'm trying to do, one of the things that I noticed very very quickly in the last couple months is that how much actually people don't want to think. Like, we think that a lot of people want freedom, right? We think that we want freedom. We want we want to like have control over our lives and all of that thing. But what I'm starting to realize in the last couple of months is how much people don't want freedom and just want to be told exactly what to do. That's what I'm starting. Like, I would do a workshop or I would do a master class or something like that, and people would be
Yeah.
like, "Okay, like what's step one?" Right? Like, son, just tell me what to do. Like, that's what they want, and I'm constantly trying to not tell them the answer. I'm constantly trying to get them to critically think about the answer themselves and come up with their own. Because
Yeah.
like we said last week, there's no right answer. Right? That's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
do. But people just want the answer.
Yes. I think there are certain camps in the world of personalities that have extreme comfort in being told exactly what to do. So I'm thinking about someone that we work with,
Well,
and
first of all, if you were to have to take a wild guess, what percentage do you think that would be?
50, 50
Oh,
to
okay.
50 to 80%.
Yeah, I would say more like 80.
I don't know. I know that's not for me. I know
Mm.
that's not my personality. And this is like another one of those areas where I've had to like struggle, learn, and accept. So there's someone that we work with, and she and I had this great conversation where I finally asked her because there was friction, right? Where I would like leave things open ended. And because that's what I would want. I don't want people telling me exactly what to do. So I would leave things open ended, and there would be like either no movement on her end or like no progress.
Yeah,
And then I would get frustrated. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, well, I told you you could do whatever, how you could do this however you wanted, within these constraints. They were loose constraints, but certainly nowhere close to being like step one, step two, step three. So we had this conversation where I was like, hey, like, I think I've learned a little bit about your personality. We've worked together for a while. Can I just ask something that's on my mind? She's like, yeah, of course. I'm like, would you be more comfortable? And let me preface this by saying, neither one of these is right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like this way of thinking is not right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, would you be more comfortable if like I came in and I just said from 8 to 9, I want you to do A, B, and C, and from 9:30 to 9:45, I want you to do, D, E, and F. She's like, yes. Oh my gosh, that would be so great. I was like, okay, well, that's not going to happen, because if I spend that much time to like write out everything, I might as well just do the things. But here's what I can do. I can like, let's figure out the guardrails and make them a little bit more narrow. But what it opened up to me is like some people, like she has extreme comfort, and she talked about it. Like it's so much more comfortable when you tell me, I want you to work on this and this and this and this between these times. And to me, that is suffocating. Like, do not tell me all those things, right? And neither one of those are right or wrong.
But that's
They're
what I
just
mean.
people that have extreme comfort in that.
And that people is 80% of the people in the world, in my opinion.
You don't know that,
maybe
son.
more. Maybe more. It's how I know is whenever I go on vacation or I go to some seminar or I go to some event when there's a lot of people, right? And when there's no specific direction, right? Because like the ones that are like polished, there'll be specific direction. When you get there, there'll be somebody who greet you and they'll be like, okay, now go here and go here. Next step is this. They tell you exactly what to do, right? When that doesn't exist, and I watch people's behaviors, what happens is people just like standing around like a lost puppy, like not knowing what to do until somebody comes and be like, okay, guys, form a line here. And that's because the 80% people are followers. Usually in a group like that, there's one or two people that goes out of their way and be like, hey, does anybody know what's going on? Okay, let's go find this. Let me go find the guide or whatever, right? There's usually one or two people like that, but majority of the people don't. They just wait to see what happens. And that...
Hey, yeah, you know what? We should, like, have you seen that? This made me think of that experiment. It was a pretty famous
like social
experiment where it was a social experiment. I can't remember what school did it, but it was fascinating because they put they had someone come in. It was as if they were coming in to do the experiment. Okay. So they were coming in, they were filling out paperwork, and there was a room. It looked like a doctor's office, I think. And there was a bunch of people there, and they're all filling out paperwork. And then they start to pump in smoke from underneath the door.
I know which one you mean. It was in Stanford, I think, and it was like they had the lab coat on, like people with the lab coat on, like authority figure telling them, "Oh, it's okay." There's nothing there.
I think eventually maybe, and but the first part that they were like they were just seeing if the people would, because obviously they're all actors, and there's one person that is the one person who doesn't know, and so they're really focused on what that person's going to do. So all the actors know, just sit here because it's not actually a fire. And so like I remember one lady's like sitting there, and she keeps looking around because she can see this smoke. And she sees it starting to fill up the room. She's like looking around like, what is everybody else going to do? And what was fascinating is that they found that most people, the majority of the people, and I can't remember the percentage off the top of my head, but you could look that experiment up. But most people just sat there because no one else was getting up. No one else was alarmed. Mm-hmm. I know my personality be like, y'all, there is smoke. I'm not hot yet, but there is definitely smoke. So I think I'm going to go ahead and walk out. And I advise that y'all walk out too. Like this doesn't seem right. But people are, I mean, think about that. Think about how many times you've been in situations where people are just like looking around to see what the other people are doing. How many times you don't raise your hand in a room when you have a question?
Because it's risk. It's every time you do that, it poses a risk. Like it poses a social risk. I'm going to get embarrassed, or I'm going to get, or I'm going to get judged.
No, I know.
And it's a reason why, like, the other day I was watching this YouTube video where this guy was saying how he was speaking to a room full of women. And he was talking about how, if you look at all the guys out there, there's about 1% of the guys who approaches every woman they like, right? And then there's about bottom 20 or 30% who will never, ever, ever approach anyone in their entire life. And then there's that 70% who would only approach somebody when the time is right, right? And
Mm-hmm.
usually that's 1 out of 30 times. Okay, so every time you're there with your friends, with your group of girlfriends, no, that guy's not approaching you, right? Every time
Yeah.
you're there with your gay best friend, that guy's not approaching you. Oh, that could be that's her boyfriend, right? Every time you're busy on your phone, like, oh, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go, that guy's not approaching you. Oh, she's gonna snap at me. She's gonna think I'm creepy. That's what's happening, right? So,
Yeah.
and the reason why that's happening is because that 1% of the people are the ones that are gonna speak up when they see a smoke. The other people
Yeah.
are the ones that are afraid of speaking up because it poses a risk. Oh, she's gonna embarrass me in front of everyone, right?
Yeah.
And we live our entire life like that, and that's why we're a society of followers. Like I actually witnessed that in the subway in New York City. This crackhead put a cigarette like in his mouth, right? Didn't light it, and everybody's just looking like what he's gonna do, right? A couple
Right.
stops pass by, and he actually lights it, and like the entire subway car fills up with smoke, right? Next stop, nobody says anything. Next stop, nobody says anything. And all of a sudden, there's like a guy that comes like, "Hey, you shouldn't be smoking in here." And that's when everybody's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Like that's when everyone spoke up. But like this happened like right in front of me.
First of all, oh, that sounds disgusting. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of truth to it, man. Nobody, I mean, just like I'm thinking about meetings and things. I mean, I've done that too, where I haven't spoken up. Like maybe I don't fully understand something, or this isn't making sense to me, and it's not a clear like wrong. It's just like thinking about
Yeah,
myself. Oh, no one else is asking a question. I guess that means I'm supposed to
yeah,
not ask a question either.
yeah. It's not the right time or something.
Yeah, it's not the right time, or they're going to think that I lack intelligence because I'm asking a question that's a stupid question, quote unquote. And there's just a lot of fear around it.
Yeah. Every time you have to speak up in front of a group, it's the social it's the social death that Mike was talking about, right? Every
Yeah.
time you have to speak up in front of a group. So did you see this other social experiment like what would you do? It's like a TV show called What Would You Do or something like that, where it's a
Uh-uh.
restaurant and a waiter is like walking, and then all of a sudden the waiter like on purpose trips and falls, right? And is like injured. And then what they're doing is they're trying to see the reaction of the diner that are right next on the table right next to where he falls, right? And when there's one person versus two people versus four people versus six versus like a 12, uh, every time you add uh, people, the reaction times gets delayed and delayed. And like when it's somebody dining alone and he falls right away, immediately he gets up and helps them, right? And when it's two people, it takes
Mm-hmm.
like up a couple of seconds later. Oh, like are you okay? Like that, right? When it's four people, it takes like 5 seconds. Like not when it's like group of people, like literally he'll fall and like nobody pays attention for like
No,
a
that's
minute.
fascinating. Or it's like they look over and they're like, oh, okay.
And you know
Now
how
what?
kids do that too, right? Like when it's so native, it's so within our genes that when a kid falls, they first look at the parents or look at other people, and then they either cry or don't cry, right? Like
Yep. They're looking for a reaction.
exactly. Like we're such social animals that even at that age, like at a
Hmm.
4-year old, we understand that, you know?
Yep. And we learn
Yeah.
based on that,
And we
like how to
learn
react.
to that actually that's the moment when we probably start to learn how to build our ego. So from that moment on, when that kid falls and looking for the reaction, right? That's a social validation that they're looking for. Like, is this
Hmm.
bad or is this good, mommy? Right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And then like, and then from their parents, their teenagers, like as we grow up, the whole time we're adding on these layers of mask after mask. And oh, like, mom, is that good? And we're just like, and then by the time we're 30, like we layer on all these masks that we're just living a lie our whole life. But at that
Well,
age is when it starts, right? Because when you're a
it's
6 year old,
dictating it.
you care less about what other people think, but you still do to a point where if you fall, you care if your mom thinks that's good or not, right? And then you get a little bit
Yeah.
older and older. How
Yeah,
pathetic
you
is
start
that?
to learn.
Is our life like that? If you think about
Yeah,
it,
which is also terrifying knowing how much influence I have over
your kid,
two small beings.
you just
Yeah.
realize that now.
Well, no, I mean, I have that reaction often like, oh, how much am I messing them up? At the same time, I think that it is just part of it. I don't even know if that we're living a lie. Like we're just living
Oh, I see what
what
you mean.
we've been trained to know, right? Like I don't know that I would say it's a lie. It's just this like how we've been molded and sculpted to how we
Yeah, maybe
react
lie is
and
not the right word, but
but
there's
there's definitely a
definitely,
facade.
well, it's the ego. Like we have,
Yeah.
we have developed an ego over time, and that ego is
Yeah.
technically a lie because that ego is not you. It's just a character you've built up. Like it's a character that you created over the years that you portray yourself to the public world, right?
So do you think there are any benefits to ego at all?
Like I think ego is what makes designs good. Like you know the the type of work that like needs really attention to detail, where the last
Hmm.
20% takes 80% of the time. Those kind of work. I actually think ego is what drives those type of like Apple products, right? Those kind of things. Like I think ego is what drives that. But I mean, are we willing? Is that worth it? I mean, in my opinion, no. Like, I would rather live in a world without an iPhone with and zero ego than a world full of ego with an iPhone.
But I don't think we can eliminate our ego, right? Like there's no like eradication of that.
I mean, if you see like a 6 year old, obviously 6 year old has a lot less ego than us, right? So, and if you
Yeah.
see like the Dalai Lama or if you see a monk, they have a lot less ego than us, right? Like,
Yes, but they
Thich
still
Nhat,
have it.
yeah, yeah, of course.
It's so what is that story about like which dog would live or whatever, the one you
The
feed?
wolf, yeah.
The wolf? Okay. I didn't know like I cuz I think that I know I'm not going to be able to get rid of ego. But what's powerful is that the awareness, knowing it's there. Cuz if you're trying to like get rid of it, like that's a like
Yeah, that's your ego
in my
speaking
opinion,
too.
like there's no flipping way you're getting rid of it. So
But
what
just
can you
trying to be
do?
present, right? Just
Yeah, just being like, okay, is that ego? Is that fear? Is that just being able to like really get in touch with what you're feeling like and what voice that is and get to know that voice gives you the power to overcome it.
but I think what's happening is we're going okay. Like the during the Roman Empire, like the Greek era, right? That's kind of when this entire idea of like stoicism, right? Like the whole thing with ego and like those were the times when that was like flourish, right? That's when everybody was studying that. And then you fast forward all the way to now. Do you feel like as a society, our egos getting stronger or weaker?
Oh, it's pretty flippin' strong.
Yeah, I feel like we're going the wrong direction. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I and I think yeah, but I don't know that we can because there's a lot more individual like the world is so different and the external factors are so different, and like our need for survival, most of
That's true.
us, is so different, and none of us are getting in the gladiator ring anytime soon, I hope.
Well, I mean, I
But
think I actually think there's a lot of parallels in the during the Roman Empire and now because of that. Because things were good back then, right? Like during the Rome, like, and that's why they were
yeah,
able to do gladiator fights and things like that. Those things happen out of abundance, right? Those things don't happen when you're,
right.
struggling to survive, right?
True, true.
So
But now it's much more in a social context.
yeah, but I think what's
Like the
happening
death
is
happens socially.
during that time the whole Stoicism was so popular because of Marcus Aurelius, right? And he was like the most powerful man in the world at that time. And all these like powerful leaders at that time were studying Stoicism and they understood the ego and all of that. Whereas if you look at the leadership now, the world leaders now, it's the opposite. Like the world leaders right now are a bunch of teenagers. They act like teenagers, right? With the highest egos. Whereas in
Hmm.
like compare them to like Marcus Aurelius. Like that's kind of the type of leaders we need. You know, I mean that's
Yeah,
what's gonna
I think.
change society because it's top. Everything is top down.
Um. So you don't think like bottom up is at all possible?
Okay,
Bottom up.
this is what I think. Like a country, I
Uh
think.
huh.
I mean, maybe you're right, right? Because with what's happening with decentralization, blockchains, and things like that, maybe it will be. I mean, the internet was bottom up, but at some point it became top. Like, internet started out bottom where it was like the people that you know. But at some point, like the top people got control of it, and now we're
Hmm.
at a place now. It's the internet is not the same thing anymore. Maybe that'll happen to the blockchain. I don't know, but that's what usually happens when you look what happened to Uber. Like Uber has such a toxic culture until they just replaced the CEO and then it fixed it, right? Like almost every country is going to be like every business company is always going to be like that because that top person is the one that's influencing the culture of the rest of the like, and everybody else is just trying to you know look up to that person.
So us as individuals, is it who we put at the top? Like is ego driving? Is fear driving?
Like, you mean for myself?
For you as a person, because like I said, I don't believe that we can get rid
No,
of these
no.
things, but we can become aware of them,
Hmm.
and that is the point in which we can change who's driving the bus. And I think that a lot of I think the hands kind of change on the reins for me anyway of who's driving. Like,
uh Within you.
but I have yeah, like I have to like stop. I mean, for me it has to be very intentional. I guess in certain situations, right, where I become really aware of it, of like, okay, what's driving me right now? Who's driving me right now? Is it my fear? Is it my ego? Is it some other voice that I've had to externalize? But if you have this ability to like externalize those different parts of you, they become a lot easier to manage versus, oh,
You
this is
almost
me
have
and I'm trying to
to.
fight against myself.
Yeah. It's usually like for me, there's triggers.
Hmm.
It's almost like an addiction, right? Like when I used to smoke weed every day, like for me the trigger was like the clock hitting like 4:30 when I know that like in 30 minutes I'm gonna go I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna go home, you know,
Hmm.
I'm gonna go take a hit, right?
Hmm.
So and that was like a trigger. I don't feel anything the whole day. Whole day I'm thinking like I'm not gonna smoke today until 4:30 comes around, and then boom, that trigger happens. And sometimes like for example, when I when I'm working on a project and that in that project is another freelance designer or something like that who's like a young newbie who thinks he's a hot shit, and I'll present a design and blah blah blah, and then this hot shit like has to prove himself in front of the group, so he starts tearing my design apart for no reason, right? or
Yeah.
or some grammar police will come and be like, oh, you missed a period there, or like those kind of things trigger me, right? And when I get triggered like
Yeah.
that, that's when I need to be super aware. But those things are the ones that also makes it hard for me to think logically, because then
Yeah.
my logic gets smaller and smaller and smaller when that trigger escalates.
Yeah, but I mean, like your ability to know, A, these are the things that cause that visceral reaction, and B, knowing what, like, what's happening when that happens for you is like puts you light years above what I think most people are operating at.
Yeah, just knowing it.
Like,
Yeah.
just knowing it is so, and like that sounds so cliche and like so much bullshit when someone's like, if you're
But
just
don't
aware
you
of it,
think
it'll
that is
change. Yeah, I do because
what
I
I
can
want to
feel
do?
it. I can know.
I want to make a hierarchy of self-help advices, because I think it'll be really interesting. Because I think if we make a hierarchy of every advice that every self-help guru has given over the years, right? I think we can put it
Hmm.
into a hierarchy. And what will happen is it'll all lead to this one thing. And what's gonna like, and up here is gonna be like something like where there's a will, there's a way, right? Or like those simple ones that people have been saying for 1,000 years, right? And then boom,
Yeah.
boom, layer after layer. Like that's how I think self-help advices work. And I think a lot of this shit is like you said, the cliches are the best advice.
Hmm.
Usually when I go through the experiments and I have to like actually like make the mistakes and learn, and I look back at the last 10 years and be like, oh, this is the lesson I learned through this through this pain. And I look back and
Hmm.
be like, oh, that's the same. Oh, where there's a will, there's a way. Oh, my dad said that when I was 10 years old. I just wasn't ready
Yeah.
to listen, right? Like, so like you said, like the best advices are the most cliche ones. It's just that are we willing to listen? And
Yeah.
and part of the problem is because people have said it so many times, we don't even try to think about that advice. The advice just goes in one ear and out the other immediately because cliche. I've heard that a million times. You know.
Yeah, and I think I've heard maybe it goes in one ear and out the other, but they don't know what the next step is. Like, how do I do that? Right? They don't. I
Well,
mean,
they
that
don't
I think
because they.
seems overwhelming. Goes back to what we were talking about earlier.
What do you
Like,
mean?
if someone says to you, like, we were talking about like learning something new and
Hmm.
daunting. Like, you can be a graphic designer, you
Hmm.
can edit video. I think the same feelings happen, if not more so, when someone's like, "Oh, if there's a will, there's a way." Oh, there's if you're just aware of it, then you can change it. You can just stop using drugs. Like, they're okay. Well, how
Oh, then they don't know the
if
first
most
step, is what you're
yeah,
saying.
they don't know
Yeah.
what to do. Like, well, okay, well, how do I do that? And I think like some of these self help books, which there's like millions of, just do this. I think even their steps are really like fuzzy.
I
They're
think
not
it's
a
because the advice, like, I think it's okay. So the reason why I like got so into storytelling and giving examples is exactly because of that. When I say, "Oh, there's a way," where there's a will, there's a way, people are gonna be like, "Oh, I get it," but that advice doesn't really apply to me because
mm-hmm,
I already know that, right? Until I say something
mm-hmm.
like, when I was when the story of when I was young and my mom made me still stay up till 3 in the morning and I had
Yeah.
to figure it out. So somehow I figured it out, and that's when I Like, so, and when I tell that story, people are like, oh, actually, that where there's a will, there's a way. That does apply to me. Because right now, I think that I can't grow Instagram, but actually, I can. The reason why I think I can't grow Instagram is because I don't have the will. Like, it does apply to you. You just don't know it yet. And by giving an
Yeah.
example and telling a story, I made you see how this advice, this cliche advice, does apply to you. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
when people go, oh, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like, but like, what does that mean? Like, then, like, what do they do? You know? So I think there
Oh,
is
yeah.
this disconnect between, well, how do I even get the, okay, yes, it applies to me. Okay, now you made that connection. I believe that. Okay, son, now what do I do? Right? Like,
I see.
and that's why people are like, okay, okay, so now how do I do it? I believe it. Okay, I believe that I have the will to do it, but how do I do it?
That's the hardest part.
Um, yeah.
That's like people know that if they stop eating ice cream and start going to the gym, that they're gonna lose that belly fat. But how do I do it? You just do it. You just like you don't want to do it. Like in
But
everything
I
that
think
I
there's a
do.
clear next step there. I think that's a clear next step. I got to stop eating the ice cream.
But I don't think
That is a
that's what's
clear next
stopping
step.
them there, though. I think usually what happens when I try to teach somebody an idea, right? Like when I try to get them to
Uh-huh.
code, when I try to get them to grow Instagram, or when I try to get them to learn how to design or whatever it is, first thing I need to do is I need to get them to say, "Oh, I never thought of it that way," so that they'll even see the reason why they should be doing it in the first place. And once they have that desire and that like they're inspired, then the next thing is like, are they actually gonna do it? And I think that's where,
So the motive,
yeah, the
because
motive comes
we talked about it.
first,
They have the
and
motive.
then the
Yeah.
discipline comes. Like, I think the reason why like 90% of people out there don't even come even close to being successful is because they never even had that aha moment in their life. They're just like, they're just in that with their horse blind, they're living life, right? And they're just
Yeah.
that pawns in the game. They don't even know that they're just being played their whole life, right? And then there's the 9% of the world who did have that enlightenment and say, okay, I'm just being played here. I need to do something about it. Like they did get their motive and they said, oh, I can grow Instagram. I can lose weight. I can get a six pack. I can build a successful business. Now they know that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 1% is the ones that actually has the discipline to know it and actually follow through. No?
Yeah. I think so. I think they will follow through. I think they just don't know what steps to take. Like, and then I think the third element is like, okay, now
Well,
what do I do?
for the person who, okay, the person who just needs to stop eating junk food and go to the gym, how do they not know what the next step is?
I think that's different. I think that they do. They know, okay, this is the next step, which is what I was saying. Like, okay, I stop eating this. So now it's
No, I
about
think for you,
discipline.
right? When you're saying by the time you figure out, like, okay, I actually can edit these videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was the moment when you realized that. Like, okay, that's the moment when you went from the 90% to the 10%. Because now you realize that you can do it, right? And you know the steps on how to do it. And the next is, are you actually going to do it? And that's where I think the last 90% of people fail.
Yes, because motivation and like, I
Discipline is
think you're
different.
right. Like, yes, they're different. And I think that, like, I'm thinking about working out specifically because there was a trainer who was talking about this. They were like, motivation isn't what gets me on this treadmill most days. What gets me on the treadmill is discipline. Like, I'm not motivated every day I come in here. And that's how I feel too, like, about a lot of things. I'm not motivated to go get my kids or to wake up at 3 o'clock in the
Hmm.
morning so that I can get a workout. Like, but I have the discipline to do it.
For
I just
example,
think
right?
that,
If I wasn't forced to go to class every day because I'm gonna fail and my parents are gonna beat the crap out of me, if I do. if if that wasn't there, I probably would have never graduated high school because there was not a single day when I wanted to wake up and go to school.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? But when I look back
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my gosh, like at graduation day, you look back, like, look at your yearbook and look at all the achievements that you've done. Like the biggest achievements that you've ever achieved in your entire life happened not because you were motivated, but because you were forced to do something because you had to do it. And you had to do something for a long enough time and that became something.
Yeah. But I don't know. I still think there's a difference between there was a clear step, like you had to get up, you had to go to school, or there were going to be negative consequences. But I'm thinking about like people who've done your workshop, right? And they're looking for you to tell them exactly what to do. Like they
Yeah, I
don't
think
know what
those
the
are the
next
people that
step
haven't.
is.
I think those are the people that haven't even gotten to that step yet. Like, that's the
Okay.
first step they need to get to is to because right now they don't they don't know the first step. That's why they think there's a huge gap. It's even I can't even do it. It's impossible because I don't even know the first step. But once you do know the first step, like once you get to that point, then that's when they're like, okay, son, I don't need you to tell me the first step. Like I know what I need to do now, and that's when they become confident. Now they went from the 90% to the 10% mark. Okay, because now they believe they can do it. They know exactly what steps to take, and then the rest is, are you actually going to do it? Are you actually going to
Yeah.
post every day? Like that if you post every day, now
Oh, okay, okay,
you
okay.
believe it for a fact that it's
Okay.
going to work. Are you actually going to do it? Now you know that you can
Okay.
learn editing. You can become the best editor in the world if you want to. Are you going to continue to edit every week for the next 3 years? That's where most people fail. That's where the last
Yes, that
90%
is.
fail.
Yeah. I agree with you on that then. Yeah.
But the
It's
first
like the follow
90%
through.
don't even ever get to the point where they're like, what's the first 90% is the people that are like, what's the first step? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So like that leads me to like, what the heck are we doing, son?
What do you mean?
What are
What do
we
you mean?
like?
I mean, what with
Like
this
what phase
podcast?
are we? Yeah. Like what are we doing? Like where are we right now?
With the podcast? I have no
Yeah.
idea. But why do we need to know?
I don't know. I think it's scary for me not to know. Not that that's wrong. I mean, I think it's uncomfortable, but I'm like, okay, where, like, when I think about that spectrum, I guess we've taken the first step and now we're in that discipline part. So what we know is that we're going to show up and do
Yeah,
these
what I know for a
episodes.
fact that is by doing a podcast, it's definitely gonna make us better.
Yeah.
That I know for sure.
All right.
The reason why is because I think for me, when I watch my old episodes,
Yeah.
like I realize how I became a better person because I see my flaws when I watch my videos. Like, oh, actually, Elizabeth was trying to say this there, but I totally blocked her out, or I wasn't listening, or I was like, I think I misunderstood her then there. I mean, we talked about it. When I rewatch it, I can see that, right? And that automatically makes me a better person. It makes me a better person because majority of the time when I'm ranting, sometimes these are the moments when a new idea comes to me, something I've never thought about, right? Or I put 2 or 3 words together that I've never done in a certain way that explains this whole thing in a much clearer way. And it's because during conversation, what's happening is my brain level, my brain, let's say capacity, I have it turned it to the max, because right now live, I'm trying to, get my thoughts out to you, right? So I'm I'm working. My brain's working at maximum capacity. So there's some crazy shit going on in here right now. That's like taking everything that I've ever known in my entire life and puzzling it together and putting it, like connecting the dots. And this is where the best ideas comes for me usually. So I know for a fact that I do this long enough, it's going to be beneficial for me. And I 100% think it's going to be beneficial for you. What I don't know is how that'll manifest itself. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yep. No, and I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Like that makes sense. Um and yeah, we'll see. I'm just like, wow, okay.
Yes.
So we're it's sinking in. We've committed to this. And
Yeah.
but I was curious, like, okay, where are we falling on that spectrum? And I think that we have shifted into the all
Yeah.
right, now we just have to show up and do it.
Yeah.
And we see
And
what
just
happens.
and this is how I try to look at content too. Is I think we should just try different things. Like for example, maybe next week we can try like I suggested, maybe we each come up with like 3 to 5 topics
Mm-hmm.
and talk about it. And topics wise, like, and it's because I saw this from the, I don't know if I told you about the Ben and Charlie podcast. These are the guys
Mm-mm.
from Charisma and Command, and that's how they do it. So each week they bring up current affair topics, current like things that are going on right now. So they're like, oh, Elon Musk just bought Twitter. What do you think of that? You know, and
Okay,
then
okay.
things like that. Yeah. So I think
All
that
right.
because
Well,
that's interesting because I think people, for me, people do ask me like, what do you think of Elon Musk? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of? Are you religious or are you not? Like, so I think that people do want to hear our thoughts and probably,
rip them apart.
yeah. And I don't, and some of these things I don't even know what my thoughts are, what my opinions are.
I know. Like that's how I feel about all the things. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
But maybe we'll
Um,
discover it through this podcast.
yeah. And we'll discover how people disagree with us. Which is terrifying.
Well,
Um,
how do you feel?
cool, man.
Good.
We
I
did
think we
it.
can wrap up this one here. We can
Yeah.
put this in the can.
Say signed,
Boop.
sealed, delivered.
Deliver.
We need like a little we need like a sound effect.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, okay,
We're gonna add
we're
them.
at the end.
You see, like I added the new intro. Now that we have the new intro, now we're gonna add
Yeah, that was
maybe a
cool.
new introduction, new ending, new.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
curious what people think. Have you announced that you're redoing? Oh, I
No,
guess you have because you've been
I
showing
mean,
them,
yeah.
right?
And I don't really like making big announcements because like
Uh,
um if I make big announcement and something doesn't work out, it's just I just feel pathetic. And also like making announcements. Actually, I don't know if you heard this from like the Atomic Habit, but when you buy a book, order a book from Amazon or you register for a course, that alone gives you a sense of accomplishment, a dopamine hit. That is, you're
yeah.
less likely to actually read that book because you feel like you've already done something. And the same thing happens when you make pre-announcements. You know how people do
Mm-hmm.
that? Oh, something
Mm-hmm.
exciting is in the works. Look for like when they do that, they already feel like sense of accomplishment by announcing that they don't actually focus on the thing. So what I do
Well,
is I,
yeah.
I I focus on my thing. I make it polished. I make it perfect without announcing it. I just do it silently. And people are
Yeah.
like my membership right now, right? Like people are, but a lot of people don't even know about my membership right now. But I want to get it to a point where it's polished. It's really great. It's gonna
Yeah.
blow them away, and then make the big announcement. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, no, no. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right. Well, we'll get our intro, or wait, not intro, outro
Outro.
sound
Yeah.
effect. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get
Be
we'll get
cool.
better at it, and I'm having fun. I'm loving it.
Yeah, me too. I love talking to you.
Yeah.
I love talking to you. I'm just amazed that people want to listen to this.
Yeah, me too. But
Like,
I'm amazed at a lot of things, right? I'm amazed that people actually want to hear me talk. I'm amazed that people want me to teach them. I'm amazed that people are willing to pay me to make them a website. Amazing. I'm amazed that like that Gigi actually likes me. Like I'm amazed at a lot of things about me. You know what I mean? Like,
I know. Yeah.
like
I'm amazed by a lot of things about me. You need to, I feel like we need that little clip.
I'm amazed
Um,
at how I'm amazed that anybody can possibly like me. Like,
oh,
but it's but they do. So
son. Yeah. Like you're extremely likable. You kidding me? What the heck? That makes me sad. Yeah. Yes, son. You're like a words of
no, but
affirmation
that's how
person.
I used to feel my whole life, right? When I
Yeah.
got my first girlfriend, I'm like, before I got my first girlfriend, I'm like, nobody will ever like me. Why would anyone like me? Until I get my first girlfriend, and that, you know, like it's always like, why would anybody pay me to make them a website? Until somebody pays me to make a website, right? And
Right. Some pretty big deal people pay to make them a website. Yeah.
but that's how I
Yeah.
feel right now. Like, why would anybody want to listen to this podcast? Until it gets 1 million downloads,
Someone
then
else.
I'm gonna be like, oh,
I know. I'm truly amazed, but we'll see.
yeah,
I mean, you have a lot more followers than when we first started this.
yeah.
So,
And I'm going really heavy, and I'm gonna like cut up this podcast and post it on everywhere, YouTube, LinkedIn, everywhere. So I'm actually gonna
all right.
focus on growing the podcast this time.
Well, hey, I'm just here for the ride, man.
Yeah, yeah. Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride and we'll see what happens.
But
Thank
50,
you, son.
50,
52.
52.
Well, okay, we'll count the first two. So we
Oh yeah,
the one last week, the one this
I got two
week.
in the can.
So now we got 50
Yeah.
more that we have to knock out.
We'll celebrate it at 52.
Yes, we better.
Yeah,
No matter how it ends, like no matter what it's like when we
yeah.
get it 52, like we'll celebrate this time next year.
We'll do like an in-person one, live audience. How awesome would that be?
Yes. We're going to visualize it. I can see it now. It's got to be in Nashville. New
Put it
York
on your
City is
wall.
too cliche.
Oh yeah, definitely Nashville. Put it
Come
on
do
your
it in
vision board.
Nashville. Yep. I'm going to like, that's what I'm going to do. I think that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to make like a board
I like that
and,
room. I don't know why you thought.
oh, there's nothing really back. This is like my little, it's an extra bedroom. And so it's like kind of where I can put all my
Yeah,
stuff and just do
your
my
sanctuary.
yoga, chill. Yeah. Yeah. Away from the kids and have a place that's chill. All
Cool.
right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
Sounds good.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.